What is up, everyone? In this video I want to talk about the Forsaken Hollows Elden Ring Nightreign's DLC, which is releasing on December 4th, and I want to talk about the two new Nightfarers, the Scholar and the Undertaker, in addition to a new Shifting Earth, as well as a few new night bosses and enemies that we'll be able to fight. Recently we were given the character trailers for the Scholar and the Undertaker. In addition to that, Gamespot got an opportunity to play the DLC early and made a video about the character breakdowns for the Scholar and Undertaker's moveset. And within the video, it showed some new field bosses and night bosses that I'm pretty excited for to fight against. These clips that I am showing is mostly clips from Gamespot's gameplay of the Scholar and Undertaker and Bandai Namco's trailers for those characters. Starting off, we have the Scholar. He is a support character that scales really well with Arcane being an S tier, while his lowest tier is Strength, which is indeed here. But his HP, FP, and Stamina kind of makes up for it since they're all in B tier, and his Dexterity, Intelligence, and Faith are just average, which is C tier. And I feel like this is a pretty well-rounded character for a support character. His preference of weapons are thrusting swords, so that means he has 7 different thrusting swords that he can choose from what we've known of the weapon categories of Nightreign. And starting from common to epic, we have the Rapier, Noble S-Stock, and S-Stock being common. Next up, we have the Clean Wrought Knight Sword and Roger's Rapier being rare. And last but not least, we have the Frozen Needle and the Anspear Rapier being epic. And honestly, I believe the Frozen Needle would be the best choice for Scholar since it can kind of do frost proc, and its charge attack kind of shoots out like a little Frozen Needle, which is really nice since it can kind of get a little extra range. Like, I would say from what I've played or used the Frozen Needle, it's like kind of a mid-range projectile, and I'll show you a little clip of me using it. I'm not too sure about heavy thrusting swords, if that's included to his preference, but I doubt it since it would normally specify heavy thrusting swords as well, so I'm gonna just assume that it's just thrusting swords. And moving on to his passive skill, Bagcraft, and I feel like this is probably the really big key feature for the Scholar. Actually no, there's a lot of key features, but I feel like this is a really unique one. And it's a passive skill that basically allows Scholar to hold more items and increase the potency of the items when he's using them more and more. And from the looks of it, you might be able to carry 2 more consumables, or maybe like the amount of consumables you can carry is doubled. It wasn't really explained much in the GameSpot's character breakdown of the Scholar, but I'm assuming it's one or the other. Within GameSpot's video character breakdown about the Scholar, it is mentioned that his consumable categories can be leveled up twice, and this may not seem useful because most people think like, oh, consumables, so probably Starlight Shards or those blooms to kind of get rid of poison or status effects, but keep in mind that greases and pots are also considered as consumables, so the throwing pot talisman that everyone pretty much abandons finally could be getting picked up and used for once. In addition to that, there is a relic with the effect, I believe, physical power increases when using grease, and that could be pretty good for the Scholar since if he managed to get a blood grease and his arcane stats in S, so he can probably proc bleed a whole lot faster. His character skill, Analyze, is actually really interesting. In GameSpot's video, it basically talks about how the skill can buff allies or debuff enemies. The longer Scholar analyze whatever is in the circle, the more buffs and debuffs can be stacked, since it kind of goes by level, and I'm assuming that the 3rd level is the highest since in the video of the GameSpots it's only been talking about level 1 and 3. But the keybinds to trigger the buffs or debuffs is basically left trigger for debuffs on enemies and right trigger for buffing allies. And from the looks of it, I believe that the debuff is more useful than the buffs, because in GameSpot's video it was mentioned that level 1 buffs increase stamina recovery time, while level 3 buffs makes a barrier that releases a shockwave when hit. Now, I don't know if the barrier negates all damage when hit or a portion of it, but I don't think having a stamina buff would be all too useful since you can easily get stamina buffs from the drops of field bosses. And not to mention that the turtlenecks consumables are pretty much everywhere. Like, you can buy it in a shop from the merchants for like 2 of them for 2,000 ruins, but debuffs are where it is at. A level 1 debuff decreases an enemy's attack and the level 3 debuffs makes it so that the next hit they get is going to be more effective, or like they're going to take more damage to it. So here's a whole story that I kind of imagined. Imagine fighting Night Aspect with a team of Duchess, Iron Eye, and a Scholar. Iron Eye puts his mark on Night Aspect and Scholar analyzed him to level 3 and put a debuff on him. With the Night Aspect being weakened and the next attack he receives will be even more potent, Iron Eye uses his ult on Night Aspect, breaking the mark, dealing an increased damage on top of Scholar's debuff to the Night Aspect, and then Duchess using her reprise ability doing even more damage. And I feel like that just does so much damage. Of course, that's a theory, and I would love to see that happen, but even though that sounds really interesting, I feel like it could be a little bit hard because the analyzing skill takes some time depending on where the Scholar is kind of located at in position to the enemy. The closer he is, the quicker he can analyze, but the farther he is, the longer it takes. And from the looks of it, if the Scholar is like mid to far range from the enemy, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds for him to fully analyze, while close range is almost instantaneously, if not like 2 or 3 seconds. Lastly, his ultimate, Communion Base, connects all his allies and nearby enemies together, so if an ally gets hurt, all the enemies gets hurt, and if an ally is using a healing item, everyone gets healed. And I feel like this is really good, especially if like the Scholar is paired with like 2 other tanky characters, such as I would say either Raider, Guardian, or even Wilder if he has a lot of health upgrades. And I feel like this could pretty much kind of make a team that's almost unkillable to a certain degree. One Scholar specific relic that really stood out to me is that when Scholar is buffing his allies, those allies will also get an attack buff, which seems pretty strong to me. I'm not too sure if it kind of works or carries over to their ultimate, but if that's the case, it'll even buff it even more, which I'm all in for. Overall, I would say Scholar is a really good support character who is also kind of good at crowd control to a certain degree. I believe that all the Nightfarers that's going to be paired with him is going to be pretty well, but I feel like the Nightfarers that have the greatest energy could be Duchess, Iron Eye, and maybe even Wilder. Next up, we have the Undertaker. I think she might be the more popular of the 2 new Nightfarers, since she scales with Strength and Fate, with both of them being in A tier, while her Dexterity and Intelligence is in D tier, and her Arcane is in C tier. Her Stamina and FP are also in C tier, but her HP is in B tier, so she makes a really good damage dealer. So with that in mind, she might be the perfect character to do a strength holy build like how some of you guys do in Elden Ring. Her preferred weapons are hammers, which means that Revenant will have competition of who can use the bigger hammer better. Jokes aside, that will mean that a lot of hammers will be used since there are 15 different hammers for her, and that's a bit more than doubled the preferred weapons that she has compared to Scholar, since Scholar only has 7 different types of thrusting swords, while she has 15 different hammers. Starting from common to rare to epic to legendary, we have the club, curved club, mace, stone club being in common. Next up are spiked club, monk's flame mace, morning star, war pick, Vare's bouquet, and the classic hammer being rare. Then we have the envoy's horn, Nox flowing hammer, ring finger, and the scepter of the all-knowing. Last but not least, we have America's hammer being the only legendary hammer, and it scales with faith and strength. Another weapon that scales with faith and strength that's a hammer I didn't mention earlier is the envoy's horn, and I feel like those 2 weapons are perfect for the Undertaker since he scales with faith and strength. Moving on to her character skill Trance, it basically turns her walks into dash, increase her attack combos and toughness, and her dodges are also increased, and when paired with her ultimate, it enhances everything even further. Moving on to her passive, Confluence. When any Nightfarer uses their ultimate, there is a brief moment in which she can use her ultimate free of charge, and when I say brief, I mean like 2 to 3 seconds. This seems really powerful since having teammates who recharge their ult pretty often will also be pretty useful for you as well, since you can pretty much spam your ult. Lastly, her ultimate is called the Lowstum Hex. It can be used at almost any range, but mid to far range seems to be its limits, and it looks like it's pretty much a flying dash that just directly targets whatever is locked on, and whatever is in the way also takes AoE damage. And from the looks of it, it can kind of revive one bar from a downed Nightfarer. So not like Revenants or Guardians Ultimate where they can revive anyone. Overall, I would say that she is a great character to do massive damage, with her potentially double stacking her ultimate back to back. And I feel like this can make some pretty good builds. Like Scholar, I say that she pairs well with almost any Nightfarer, and it might just be me being biased since I am a Duchess main, but I feel like she pairs really well with Duchess since Duchess can use her reprise ability and the Undertaker can just pretty much use her ult back to back if Duchess uses her ult, which I feel like could do pretty big damage. But also Raider with his ult Totem basically buffing nearby ally strength, and paired that with the Undertaker doing back to back of her ult, I feel like that could also do big damage. That's all for characters, but now I want to talk about the enemies and the new map. When seeing the videos for Gamespot and the trailers, I noticed some interesting field bosses, night bosses, and night lords. Starting off, we have some normal groups of enemies like the Nomads, Ancestor Follower, Warriors, and some field bosses like the Sundred, Gladius. And from the looks of it, the Dancing Lion, which might be the main boss within the new Shifting Earth. Next up, we have the night bosses. Now, this first boss I'm going to describe might be a little bit confusing, but we have the Demon Prince, which I believe has a phase 1 of it just being the Demon Prince, and phase 2 of the Demon Prince is splitting and becoming the Demon in Pain and a Demon from Below. I'm not too sure, but I'm assuming they are, since they all kind of look the same from the clips that was shown. And we also have the Lord of Blood, or also known as Morg, as a night boss. And then we have the Cursed Blade and Divine Beast Warrior. If you played Elden Ring DLC Shadow of the Erdtree, you guys know how bad they are. I would say even worse than the Bell-Bearing Hunters. And if you think the Bell-Bearing Hunter is bad, well, unfortunately, I got even more bad news for you. Lastly, we have Artorias. What else can I say? I've never fought him, but recently I've started to play DS1 and I really can't wait to start fighting him. We also have 2 new Night Lords, the Dreadlord, and one that appears to have 7 different enemies. That's gonna suck. If you think fighting Gladius was bad, try fighting 7 different bosses at the same time. Then again, it could be that like how they did with the Godskin duo fight in Elden Ring, where if you do a set amount of damage, they kind of swap out, and then at some point they just both show up fighting. I'm not too sure how that works, or maybe all those 7 enemies combine into one, who knows. Next up is a Shifting Earth, but honestly I wouldn't even say it's like a Shifting Earth. It's like a whole new map, and by the looks of it, it looks like to be a poison swamp where if you kind of walk into the poison puddle, you'll be slowed and poisoned, just like how it would happen in Elden Ring. Within the Shifting Earth, there's also a new fortress, and that fortress has a forge. Not just any forge where like, oh, you can upgrade your weapon. No, none of that. It can change your weapon skill. Now, I feel like that could be a major game changer. Imagine going in for a round, right? You have the perfect relics, the perfect weapon passives, but you're just trying to find that one specific skill. And there you have it, the forge. You can reforge your weapon skill to anything. Now, I'm not too sure if it's randomized or if you can select a certain skill, but if you can select a certain skill, I feel like going to the fortress is going to be worth the trouble. Honestly, I'm really excited for the DLC tomorrow. I plan to live stream it on my channel for the next few days around morning or 2 p.m. Central Time. I hope you guys enjoy watching my videos. I know this is a bit different from the usual videos I'm making, but I want to start making more lore-based videos and guides. Having said all that, if you guys enjoyed watching this, I would appreciate it if you guys like and subscribe, and I would appreciate if you guys tune in to my live streams for Nightreign, and as always, see you.